6 Points of Sadness.
6 Points of Sadness. It's not what this show is called. This show is called Switching Reels.
Yes, it is. This is Trenton.
This is Connor.
Yeah, and we are your hosts.
Yes. And
For better or for worse.
Beautiful, small room.
Yes.
I love it.
So, I didn't ask you last week if you had seen this week's movie.
Yeah, you did not. It's the only week's movie so far that I have seen.
Yes.
So
this week we watched The Dark Knight.
Yep. Classic.
And I realized that we had talked about doing a format that we didn't do here.
Oh,
which is
what we're gonna do.
When a movie is a part of a series.
Yeah. Oh,
we were gonna watch the
first one.
Yeah.
So we'll have to go and plan it out.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, probably a little bit. This one I don't think is as big a deal because there are a few things where
I think it also matters more if one of us hasn't seen it.
Yeah, that's true.
I've seen all the Batmans. So
right. Yeah, and that's why it didn't even come into my
not even think about it. Yeah. But not apparently everyone has seen all the Batmans.
Right, yeah. But in fairness, they shouldn't be watching our podcast or listening to our podcast if they haven't seen the movies.
People like my wife are going to be listening to this podcast.
That's fair.
Oh yeah, spoilers for The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Batman The Dark Knight.
Yeah. But that's the thing. We have very spoiler.
Very spoiler.
High spoiler.
High spoiler.
Concentration.
I feel like concentration is the best word, but I can't find another word for it.
All right. So let's get started with our questions.
Absolutely.
Very initial reactions, score out of 10. Again, we've both seen this.
Yeah, no. So but it has been a hot sec. There are some plot points that I had completely forgotten.
Mm-hmm.
Can't forget Heath Ledger though. Goodness gracious.
Oh no.
So very initial reactions. I say so. Liking it, it's absolutely a 10. It just carries you through the entire thing, and it's very nice.
Yeah.
Technical, I'd say it's actually closer to a 9. There's some pacing things in it where I'm like, you never stop. Like, you don't breathe the entire movie.
Yeah.
Essentially.
I don't have a problem with that, though.
Yeah, and most of the time, I don't either, but I like having some time to think for a second and, let it sink in, which I guess is actually, seems like that's just not what this movie wanted, which is absolutely valid, too. Like I said, 10 out of enjoyment.
Yeah.
It does good by me there, for sure.
Yeah. I would say that this is... From me, it's a 10 for enjoyment. Again, we're doing back-to-back episodes where these are in my top 3.
Exactly.
So
always a 10.
Yeah. We'll start hitting.
I think this actually might have been my first 10 enjoyment.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because I think last week Godfather
9.5 was still. Yeah.
It was a 9 or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I also think it's a technical 10. Despite thinking that there are some technical issues, and little things where, because I've probably seen this movie more than any other movie we're going to watch.
So cool.
I've watched this movie a lot, and part of it was, it came out when I was at the beginning of high school.
Yeah. And
so I was just in the right age range where this is
the perfect movie.
I would say this is probably the most intense movie that I was allowed to watch at the beginning of high school.
You say that, but you've also made multiple different comments on how you've watched
Yes, I watched those in later high school.
Oh, got you.
So yeah, my the restrictions on my watching faded
pretty quick,
relatively quickly.
Nice.
Yeah. It was over the course of basically freshman to junior year. By the end of junior year, I could watch whatever I wanted.
Yeah, totally.
Again, for better or worse. But yeah, so I think there are some things where if you think too hard about them, they break down a little bit. Yeah. But it's still not something where I go. At no point is it immersion breaking.
Exactly. Yes.
But there are just some little things when he's in the hospital and he's wearing the mask and he takes off his mask and Harvey goes ballistic.
Yes.
It's like, who did you think was under that mask wearing
the whole
white
time with
makeup?
the makeup. Maybe he was delusional, which could be just that entire section of this movie.
Possible. They were definitely...
Oh, I didn't see your face. I didn't know you were the Joker. It's
possible. He seems very lucid if he's... He
does. He seems very lucid. I don't know, though. You got half your face burned off.
He's able to talk through that, so, like, I don't know.
Yeah, as a kid, I loved the idea of Two-Face coming in. I loved the idea of Two-Face generally as a kid for some reason. Like, and the way that Harvey Dent was portrayed in this, I don't know the actor. You might, but...
Aaron Eckhart.
You're the best. The way that he portrayed Harvey Dent, both before and after, was just gorgeous.
Oh, yeah. So... Last week I actually talked about last episode I talked about the Long Halloween.
Yeah.
And how it starts off with the wedding scene from The Godfather and everything.
That, yep.
It's a fantastic comic book, so I'm going to bring it up again. But Christopher Nolan and David S. Goyer, and I don't know if Jonathan Nolan was a part of writing The Dark Knight. I know he was on Batman Begins. Mm-hmm. Either way, they were writers for The Dark Knight, and they have said that The Long Halloween was what they based a lot of the characters for The Dark Knight on.
Nice.
Yeah, so, like, the Harvey Dent in the comic books, like, because he is just, like, normal Harvey Dent through the entire thing.
Yeah.
Very reminiscent... or the Aaron Eckhart performance is very reminiscent of that.
That's so cool.
But yeah, so just as far as technical things go, I go, yeah, it's a 10 with some caveats. Because any of those things are just things that are going to be picked up by watching over and over and over again.
Yes.
And then I don't think it's fair to make judgments.
You've seen it like 20 times.
Because everything's going to have some flaws.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, I think that this is about as close as you get to a perfect movie.
I agree, actually.
One thing I was actually paying attention to this time is... there are almost no throwaway lines in the entire thing.
No, but actually, like, everything matters.
Like, every single line, which is wild. Mm-hmm. Like, it's so cool. Everything is either playing into the plot or the themes.
Yes, absolutely.
Characters are kind of throwaway, but that's not the focus of the movie, and so I don't have a problem with it.
Exactly.
But yeah, as far as, like, every line directly impacts either the themes of the film or the plot. Mm-hmm. Or both. And it's just... I was utterly impressed.
Yes. It's a very, very, very good movie. And I'm looking forward to talking about it more.
Yeah. So the next question, and I think this one's going to be pretty quick.
Nice.
Does it deserve its place on the list?
Yeah, I'd say so, for sure. And obviously, like, I can see why it's underneath Godfather and Shawshank.
Yeah.
Because from, like, a storytelling perspective, those ones are just, like...
oh, yeah.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
And this story is absolutely fantastic as well. Mm-hmm. But it isn't, like... it wouldn't feel as good if it was just this movie by itself. It would still be fine. Like, it's actually fairly standalone. There's not very much except for, like, Bruce's relationship with, not Kate. Rachel. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
With Rachel, that's not explained very well, or, like, why Mr. Fox is doing the stuff that he's doing.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't explain the relationships with Rachel, Lucius. That's about it.
Yeah, really close. Also, like, Commissioner Gordon.
Oh, Commissioner Gordon and the Batman relationship is
also not super well explored.
But even with, like, that particular one, I give them a little bit of a pass as well, because I'm like, again, and this is assuming that they wanted to make it a standalone.
Exactly, which they didn't.
But the relationship with Commissioner Gordon and Batman is just kind of established in the comic books.
Yeah, exactly.
And like even someone who hasn't read the comics still kind of understands that.
Exactly.
Like if you've engaged with any sort of Batman media since the 1960s, I have strong feelings about the show, and they're not positive.
Oh,
yeah.
I liked watching some of the show as a kid. You don't see Robin in any of the movie adaptations.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. Well, you do. It's just not in any of the good ones.
Oh, good. Yeah. Oh, that's true. There's the Mr. Freeze one.
Yep. Batman and Robin.
Oh, that was so good.
And controversial opinion on this one, I actually do kind of have a soft place in my heart for Batman Forever.
Oh, which one's that?
That's the one with Jim Carrey as the Riddler and Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face. And it is about as campy as you can get with Batman, and I will still enjoy. Like it doesn't take itself seriously at all, but it's not like with Batman and Robin, I'm just cringing through the entire thing. Whereas with Batman Forever, I'm like, this is stupid and fun, and I still enjoy it.
Wait, was Batman and Robin the one with Mr. Freeze and Poison Ivy?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, dang. Yeah. I love that one. That one's super fun to me. It's
I can't stand
funny.
it.
Oh, it's so great.
I can't sit through that one. Yeah.
Beautiful.
But yeah, so relationships are definitely something that this movie doesn't focus on as much.
And then, again, you're right. It doesn't need to.
Yeah,
like, this one is.
It's very plot driven, but I think
and also theme driven, very much so.
Yeah, and I think it's one of the only films that can do that.
Yeah, they did a really good job with it. I was really surprised. Like they counted on the fact that you knew what Batman was.
Right. Yeah.
Like they didn't do any sort of reintroduction or anything like that. They used a lot of the screen time and the movie exploring themes.
Yeah.
Of like
heroism,
of heroism and vigilantism and right and wrong and morality. Like it's super cool.
Yeah. We'll talk about that in a little bit. It might actually be our next. No, we got one more. Standout scenes.
So I did not know that. I could have sworn that the you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain was much older than The Dark Knight. I could have sworn it was.
It's what 2022 now.
Yeah.
So it's been out
15 years?
14 years,
yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so it's had some time.
I was really hoping I was overestimating with the guess there.
Yep. Yeah, no. It came out in 2008.
Wow.
So,
oh yeah, 14 years. That's insane.
So a significant amount of time, long enough that I would say, we can...
That's insane. That's still crazy, though. Like, you don't have sayings that are that pervasive come up very often, I feel like. Like, that's everywhere.
This is a completely different can of worms, and so I don't want to go too far off on a tangent with it, but I would say with meme culture becoming as prevalent as it is today,
and things are going to feel more prevalent.
The rise of it in that late aughts, early 10s,
yes,
I think being that prevalent is not...
That's a very good point. Oh, 2008 was right after the housing crisis.
Yeah.
That's crazy as well.
Yeah, weirdly, I remember them as connected.
Batman,
super
the Dark
weird.
Knight caused the housing crisis.
No.
Correlation.
No, I do kind of see them like... I remember really wanting to see it in the theater. And my family didn't go to the theater all that often, but if there was something that I was like, I really want to see this, I usually could convince my parents, like, hey, I only do this at that time, like 2 times a year.
Exactly. And look at you now.
Yeah. Oh, now is nothing compared to what I was in early college. Yeah. Oh, well, before film school, because I could afford movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I was living at home and working. You just
go. This is before the subscription services.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. I there were days when I would seriously buy 2 or 3 tickets.
Yep.
And I would just stay at the theater, the entire day. And I'd
That's fantastic.
The best part was walking through the hallway behind the ticket taker and just going, here you go.
Here you go.
Here's the one to the next movie I'm going to watch.
So you know, I did buy them.
I did watch some bad movies doing that.
I
But
imagine.
yeah.
Goes.
But yeah, as far as standout
yes.
scenes, one thing that's hard for me about this one is kind of picking out those scenes.
Absolutely.
Because I've watched the movie so many times
at this point, yeah.
But there are some things where...
Do you think it makes you feel the feels?
Not really anymore. And that's sad to me.
Yeah.
But there are certain things that knowing the backstory and that kind of thing definitely help with some stuff. So, for example, the hospital scene.
Yes.
When Joker is walking out and the bomb doesn't go off.
Yep. And this.
So that explosion was supposed to be delayed. But and mind you, this was all one event. So all of those explosions and everything, because they were all practical effects, they had one chance.
Yep.
And he improvises his reaction. Like he's just supposed to walk out, walk on the bus, everything's supposed to explode.
Yeah.
Right? And that's just supposed to be a little bit delayed.
How it goes.
He walks out of the hospital, improvises this fiddling with the detonator scene.
Which makes it.
Right, yeah.
It makes it so well.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
Knowing that he only has one take, because they can't put the hospital back up.
Together. What are you going to do?
An old candy factory that was scheduled for demolition.
You guys will buy it from you.
Well, basically, they just had to buy the ability to decorate it before it exploded. But yeah, so like he improvised that scene, and that's wild to me. And every time I watch it, I have a little bit of a greater appreciation just for the man's acting chops.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the boldness.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
That is, to not tell anybody that this is what you're going to do. But yeah, Heath Ledger's performance is fantastic. I think Aaron Eckhart's gets overlooked a lot in this. As well as Gary Oldman's. But I think he's going to be overlooked in any movie that he's in.
Because he's just there. He is a character.
Well, he's,
like there's...
For me, I think any praise that he gets isn't enough. So, you know. He
still overlooked.
Yeah.
16 Emmys, one movie. Still overlooked.
Yeah. Emmys are TV. You were close.
Oscars.
He may have won one for Finest Hour, which was not a great movie, but an excellent performance.
That's what you were saying.
Did I tell you about that? Okay, yeah.
Winston Churchill. You would have believed it, except for the fact that he's not cursing enough.
Yes. But yeah, so like all of the, I think the side characters have really great performances. And I have no bad things to say about him, but I think that the exception here with like these side characters is Morgan Freeman's character as Lucius Fox. Because Lucius, as much as I like him, he's kind of a one-note character.
He is. He does one thing, or does one thing.
Yeah.
One asterisk thing. He's also the CEO, essentially. So. Yeah.
So like I don't think that he brought a bad performance, but I just don't think it was standout because the role didn't call for a standout performance.
Absolutely, I do feel that the Lucian character made it very cool to me because it was a Batman iteration where Batman wasn't a jack of every single trade. He was a jack of I can hit things really well, generally strategize, and detective pretty well. Yeah, but tech, I'm going to give to someone else, which I thought was really, really cool.
But that's just props to the whole series.
Absolutely.
Like, I think they, and I would say his Lucius Fox is a better character in the first movie.
Absolutely. Lucius Fox is great in the first movie.
Yeah. And so I think, just we need to go watch Batman Begins. It's not going to show up for a while. It's on the list, but
okay. First of all, other standout scenes. I really love the switcheroo the Joker pulls between Dent and Rachel.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite things. When I remembered it was coming up, I was like, "Oh wow, this is heartbreaking."
I saw your physical reaction when we were watching,
and like I always did wonder if because I feel like in the couple areas, the Joker is relatively predictable in his as a character, not as the actor, in what he's going to be doing. I've always wondered if the boat would have actually blown up the other vessel, or if the trigger would have actually blown up the other boat, or if it would have blown up your own boat.
Oh yeah,
I've always wondered that because he doesn't say it ever.
So if we're moving on from standout scenes, I've got some things. So one thing that I really love that they did with the character of the Joker is he falls in line with a lot of what sort of started with The Killing Joke by Alan Moore. The comic book theory that the Joker is a liar.
Oh.
Like just generally.
That's what they are.
Like, yeah.
Nice.
So when you have him telling the stories.
Yeah, because there's two.
Right, yeah. And that sort of thing, The Killing Joke brought it up specifically about that, his origin story.
Is that a comic?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so he says, and the famous line is, if I have to have an origin story, I would like it to be multiple choice. And so the idea that the Joker just kind of is whatever he chooses to be in the moment, I think fed into sort of some of what they did with the character. I think he's dedicated to chaos.
Yes,
in
absolutely.
This one. And so, well, I think that it fits with his philosophy and what I actually think is the one thing that they stayed true to through the whole movie, for what the Joker was going for. I think the one thing that's consistent with him is his philosophy of sort of a nihilistic view of humanity and chaos.
Yes.
And so I definitely believe that the triggers would have blown up the other boats.
Nice.
Despite the fact that he's a liar and unpredictable, I do think that he told them the truth about that because he honestly thought that they would.
Yeah, thought they would.
Yeah. Now, I don't believe that he would actually let the other boat go.
Yeah, and
I think they would have blown that one up, and he would have been like, "Okay, cool. I proved my point. Now you're dead."
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah,
I could blow up both boats. Another option.
Yeah,
all the triggers do the exact same thing.
Yeah,
could also work. I feel like that theory also works really well because he doesn't have a background that they can find. Like they spend a good 10-15 seconds saying, "Hey, nope, we can't find him anywhere."
Yeah,
this guy is completely anonymous.
Yeah,
and so he can do whatever he wants with his own story.
Right. Yeah, and that was an intentional choice. There's no question about that. But yeah, so I like a lot of the things that they did with the Joker in this. I think he is a flawless villain thematically.
Completely agree.
And one of the things that I find really interesting is there's all these theories about like his plan and all that kind of stuff, even after he's talking about like, hey, I don't have a plan, I just do things. And it's like, okay, some of the stuff definitely requires some planning.
There's a counter here somewhere.
but I don't think that he plans out everything.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's one thing, because everybody has kind of that has taken that the opposite position. From what I've seen, has kind of said, like, he just had everything planned from start to finish. He knew what was going to happen to Harvey Dent and all that kind of stuff. It's like, yeah, but can you really predict, like, that he's going to have half of his face burned off, and that's going to, like,
really help to send him into
right? Yeah, like, that was, I think that there, and I don't want to read too much into it. Like, I don't want to read into something that just wasn't thought through.
Totally.
Which is completely possible, even with a movie that I would consider a masterpiece.
Yes.
But he didn't know about that, or he didn't know that was going to happen. No. I think he used it to his advantage.
Absolutely. And
once he knew.
Very much. He was very, very, very good at playing off of whatever came at him.
Right, yeah. I think he was... Honestly, and I think that fits with his philosophy, of chaos, because, yeah, I can work with anything.
Yeah, I'll work it.
And even if you look at that scene, total side tangent, and probably has no real bearing on the
Let's go.
actual film. I noticed this time that he tells two separate origin stories, and he has two scenes where he talks about what he believes, what his philosophy is.
One with Batman, one with Harvey?
Yep. Nice. He does the one in the interrogation room and the one in the hospital.
Yeah, you're right.
And he doesn't even really have one in that end scene. That's
you're right.
Yeah, it's not he's not explaining his philosophy. It's Batman telling him that he's wrong.
Exactly.
Yeah, so...
It's funny, because Batman actually has very few lines in that section.
But they're all just, like, this is why your philosophy's wrong. And he's like, yeah, but actually, is it?
Yeah, but really, if you think about it for a
sec. But yeah, so I think that, you look at everything in that, and it fits. Again... As much as I love Christopher Nolan and think that he is the greatest director of our age, I can't say that I know he thought out every single piece of this so that it feeds back into the themes every single time.
Yes, exactly. Which I feel like is a theme. So, if either way, you could call it and point out something.
So,
no, that's fantastic.
Yeah. Was there anything else you wanted to say for? I think we're still on standout themes.
Is it still standout themes?
We just went to themes.
Okay, yeah, this is still themes. Yeah, so obviously the standout ones is like what heroism is, and like the question that I would ask myself very often is like, obviously Harvey Dent is put up as the hero, as like the following the law hero, and then that is better.
Yeah.
And Batman is shown to be the outlaw who is in violation of the law, but doing his best to follow his code and do what he can with his billions of dollars and martial arts training.
Yeah.
But anyway, one of them, the juxtaposition there at the end of heroism, or the concept of heroism, but at the price of like a loss of integrity, is so interesting to me.
So there are a few things here, and I want to address what you just said. I also just wanted to make a small note.
Please.
I noticed this time that Batman is repeatedly said to not be a hero.
Yes.
Like, and it's not just like once or twice.
No, I think it happens
at least 4 times.
Yeah. At least 4, not more. Like
Yeah, and so I'm not entirely sure what to make of that. That being said, in relation to what you were talking about, Christopher Nolan actually has a series of movies that all kind of come back to the same conclusion as
Interesting.
this one, which is, I think he's fascinated by the idea of the noble lie.
Yeah. Yes.
And I mean, this one ends with it. Other movies that we haven't watched yet end with it.
Nice. Cool. Awesome.
And yeah, so like it's very interesting to kind of see. And I don't know if he necessarily believes that the noble lie is right or wrong, but it wouldn't surprise me if it is sort of a pragmatic thing where he goes, the noble lie isn't necessarily right, but it's better than the alternative of, in this case, letting all of the work that they had done go to waste.
Yeah, and it feels very egalitarian, not egalitarian, with the one that is focusing on the benefit of larger society.
I think
it's an E. Hopefully we can think about it while we're talking.
Utopian?
But it's not utopian.
Yeah. Utilitarian.
Utilitarian. Yeah. There it is. Beautiful. It's very utilitarian.
Yeah.
In at least this case is what they make the argument for. Like you can't know either direction because they're talking about the moral structure of a city. And of course, like you've seen the moral structure of the city generally does lean more toward
corruption,
decrepituity. And so like I feel like it's a safe assumption to make, but you still can't know for certain, which is one of the things that like gets me and you just keep thinking about it. Like if the lie hasn't been told and you like write it off as Harvey Dent in the last 24 hours of his life went through insane traumatic events that made him a little bit crazy.
Yeah.
Like, which is the story of every single, not maybe every single, but very many other criminals that probably Dent put away.
Yeah.
Like, it's an interesting story. I mean, you can't explain it in the last 10 minutes of a movie that's already gone on for 2.5 hours.
Yeah. I mean, I'm all for 3.5 hour run times. I have no problem with them. But I do recognize that there are certain industry standards that you gotta adhere to. And that's, again, a whole nother can of worms that I don't think they necessarily wanted to open.
No, exactly. Like this was a very, it was a good way to end it. But it just makes such a strong statement.
Yeah.
Of choosing something that you believe to be utilitarian. Yeah. And like for the good of society and making that decision for society, which like is maybe also a strange juxtaposition because that was nearly the same decision that the boats had, that the ferries had.
Yes.
Is a like sacrifice some for the good of others.
Right. Yeah.
And the ones on that ship made a different choice. Like they chose to try their luck. If they all had to die, I guess that had to happen.
Right.
Which maybe in and of itself was also utilitarian for the culture. But like it's so strange. Like they put them so close back to back that makes you wonder.
So actually, for a long time, I didn't like. It's not that I disliked it. I guess it was not my favorite thing that so much time was used for Two-Face's story.
Really?
This time, well, I still felt like the same amount of time approximately was dedicated to it. I appreciated it a lot more this time, where I watched through it and I went, so many of these themes kind of balance on him being in here.
Yes.
It doesn't actually take away from the Joker story, and it doesn't even, what I always thought it was it was the culmination of the Joker's plan, and so it was important for that.
Yeah.
But recognizing how many of the themes surrounding heroism and surrounding the, again, sort of the idea of the noble lie, and surrounding, I mean, choice is a huge one. Morality and choice.
Very much morality and choice. Like, oof.
And like,
it's a lot of what stories come down to. Also,
yeah,
like that's the pinnacle of Shawshank. And
yeah, I would say a lot of the very top movies are, because I think
it's a fundamental thing.
Yeah.
No one can disagree with that.
Yeah.
If you like really think about it, if you are
Yeah.
truly introspective, in my opinion, you can't disagree with the fact that everything bad or good that happens around you was the choice of something else, like of someone else. Generally, maybe not Earth,
or you,
exactly. Yeah. Like you are making your choices at every moment of every second.
Yeah, there are very few things that are not dictated by choice.
Yeah. Again, earthquakes, volcanoes,
physics, yeah.
Yeah, natural laws aside, until we can change those too. But
yeah, but yeah, I think like a lot of those themes wouldn't have hit home if not for the inclusion of Two-Face, and specifically his sort of descent. And actually, sorry.
Please, this is great.
Yeah, I'm feeling a little scattered though. The noble lie being paralleled by Alfred.
Also noble lying at the same time. Like, gorgeous.
Like, and that was a lie through omission, but it's still a lie.
Yes.
Of burning that letter. For the
emotional stability of Batman, who now has to go through a frig ton more.
Yeah.
Because everyone's following him.
Right, yeah. But yeah, do we have more to drill in on the themes here? Or?
Almost guaranteed, but let's go to the next one.
Yeah, okay.
We're doing, oh yeah, this is easily going to be the longest episode.
Okay. Well, it
should be.
Batman's
beautiful.
Yes. Well, the next few questions are a little bit quicker. Who are we recommending this to?
Everyone.
Everyone who's seen Batman Begins.
No.
Okay.
We kind of covered this earlier. Like, it's not required.
It's
a very good idea to watch Batman Begins before you watch this one. I would agree.
Yeah.
But if you don't, you're not going to lose too much. Just have a couple questions that we're going to have to Google at the end.
Yeah. I mean, I will say, this one it's even when there isn't a lot being shown, it is very brutal feeling.
It's very brutal feeling. It's very intense. And again, like, it doesn't let you breathe the entire time. So if consistent suspense and action and anxiety are not your friends, then maybe take this one a little slow. Go for 4 bathroom breaks during the entire thing.
I don't know anyone who did that. The thing I did notice about this particular question is we have been recommending it as if we didn't just have a spoiler-filled conversation about it. So the recommendations probably should be something that we continue to include. That being said, understanding that the people watching this video probably have, or listening to the podcast, probably have already seen it.
Yeah, exactly.
So
it's a very good point. But if they haven't, and you're looking like, oh, look, it's the IMDb Top 250 as number 1. I've heard it's a good movie. What do you guys think?
Well, this is number 3.
I know, but chill out.
All right, yeah. But yeah, so recommending it to just about everyone. Yes. I don't know a whole lot of people who are remotely interested in movies who haven't seen it.
I'm trying to glare at my wife, but I can't because we're in a small room.
She's seen it now.
Now she's seen it, which is very nice. It's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like, ugh. And touching on the Heath Ledger, everyone that's watched it generally knows about Heath Ledger sadly taking his life shortly after.
Yeah, which that's a whole nother conversation. I do not connect this movie to that.
Yeah,
as a lot of people do.
Really?
Yeah. He was already on medications and shouldn't have been mixing them.
Yeah.
And it was an accident.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
it 100% was. It was not a.
It wasn't a. Oh, I'm gone now. Bye.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, very sad. Ugh,
just taking
such a good
taking
performance.
medications that weren't supposed to mix.
Yeah, don't do that, kids.
Yeah.
Take your drugs as you should.
Yep. Any final technical things that stood out beyond the incredible practical effects?
Like, the entire thing, like that was practical effects everywhere in that were fantastic.
Yeah.
Like,
I did notice that there weren't a ton of shots that I really loved. Like there weren't any that I was like,
oh, that's a nice shot. Yeah, exactly.
There's the opening, which is just for me. I don't know if it's just for me or if the shot is actually that good, but it feels iconic to me.
It's a very, very good shot. Absolutely. And you get some pretty good city lines.
Yeah. There's a lot of establishing shots in this as well, I noticed.
Yes. The one in Hong Kong, I was like, oh, well.
Yeah. There's two of them in Hong Kong.
Yeah, you're right. That's a good point. There's one at night also.
Yeah.
I like the one in the day. That one's really good.
Day one's better because you got the blue ocean in the background.
Also, Alfred being like, hey, I know the perfect alibi for leaving, and then also complaining as soon as Bruce has to leave is just fantastic. That was very funny.
If you can tell me the Russian for apply your own bloody suntan lotion. All right. And then final question. Oh, wait. Yeah. Final question. Have you seen next week's film before? We're watching Godfather Part 2.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah?
No, I've not
seen that. Yeah, I figured.
Godfather 1, so...
yeah. I'm excited. On this one, I'm not going to give you a heads up about tone, but I will give you a heads up that it is very different from the first one.
Interesting. Is it the same character? Nice.
Hard to explain.
Okay, cool.
People who have seen this already know that why I'm saying it that way.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
It's just a very different movie.
Have you seen Mickey Blue Eyes?
Sorry?
Have you seen Mickey Blue Eyes?
No, I haven't.
It's an awful but very fun mobster parody.
Okay.
That has Hugh Grant in it. And I love Hugh Grant a lot.
Okay.
But it was just in any movie. Very good.
Yeah.
But it ripped off so much, and I loved it. So good.
Did you watch it recently?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Last Sunday, 2 Sundays ago.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Something like that.
Yeah, I
would recommend. I think you'd love it.
Okay. I don't know. There are certain movies that just hit me a little different, and I will enjoy them regardless of how good they are. They're rare, but they exist.
Yeah. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I do have one question for you, though.
How do we end this?